Hello. Here we have chapter 18 of the Julian chapter, and this chapter is titled Mr. Browne. The only thing I was a little bummed about is that I never got to say goodbye to any of my teachers at Beecher Prep. I really liked some of them. Mr. Browne, my English teacher, was probably my favorite teacher of all time. He had always been really nice to me. I loved writing, and he was really complimentary about it. I never got to tell him I wasn't coming back to Beecher Prep. At the beginning of the year, Mr. Browne had told all of us that he wanted us to send him one of our own precepts over the summer. So one afternoon while Grandmother was sleeping, I started thinking about sending him a precept from Paris. I went to one of the tourist shops down the block and bought a postcard of a gargoyle, one of those at the top of Notre Dame. The first thing I thought when I saw it was that it reminded me of Augie. And then I thought, ugh, why am I still thinking about him? Why do I still see his face wherever I go? I can't wait to start over. And that's when it hit me, my precept. I wrote it down really quickly. Sometimes it's good to start over. There. Perfect. I loved it. I got Mr. Browne's address from his teacher page on the Beecher Prep website and dropped it in the mail that same day. But then, after I sent it, I realized he wasn't going to understand what it meant. Not really. He didn't have the whole background story about why I was so happy to be leaving Beecher Prep and starting over somewhere new. So I decided to write him an email to tell him everything that had happened last year. I mean, not everything. Dad had specifically told me not to ever tell anyone at the school about the mean stuff I did to Augie, for legal reasons. But I wanted Mr. Browne to know enough so that he would understand my precept. I also wanted him to know that I thought he was a great teacher. Mom had told everyone that I wasn't going back to Beecher Prep because we were unhappy with the academics and the teachers. I felt kind of bad about that because I didn't want Mr. Browne to ever think I was unhappy with him. So anyway, I decided to send Mr. Browne an email. And here we have the email. To tbrowne@beecherschool.edu from Julian Albans at easymail.com regarding my precept. Hi, Mr. Browne. I just sent you my precept in the mail. Sometimes it's good to start over. It's on a postcard of a gargoyle. I wrote this precept because I'm going to a new school in September. I ended up hating Beecher Prep. I didn't like the students, but I did like the teachers. I thought your class was great, so don't take my not going back personally. I don't know if you know the whole long story, but basically the reason I'm not going back to Beecher Prep is, well, not to name names, but there was one student I really didn't get along with. Actually, it was two students. You can probably guess who they are because one of them punched me in the mouth. Anyway, these kids were not my favorite people in the world. We started writing mean notes to each other. I repeat, each other. It was a two-way street, but I'm the one who got in trouble for it. Just me. It was so unfair. The truth is, Mr. Tushman had it in for me because my mom was trying to get him fired. Anyway, long story short, I got suspended for 2 weeks for writing the notes. No one knows this, though. It's a secret, so please don't tell anyone. The school said it had a zero-tolerance policy against bullying. But I don't think what I did was bullying. My parents got so mad at the school, they decided to enroll me in a different school next year. So, yeah, that's the story. I really wish that that student had never come to Beecher Prep. My whole year would have been so much better. I hated having to be in his classes. He gave me nightmares. I would still be going to Beecher Prep if he hadn't been there. It's a bummer. I really liked your class, though. You were a great teacher. I wanted you to know that. I thought it was good that I hadn't named names, but I figured he'd know who I was talking about. I really didn't expect to hear back from him. But the very next day, when I checked my inbox, there was an email from Mr. Browne. I was so excited. Here's the email. To Julian Albans at easymail.com from tbrowne at beecherschool.edu regarding my precept. Hi, Julian. Thanks so much for your email. I'm looking forward to getting the gargoyle postcard. I was sorry to hear you wouldn't be coming back to Beecher Prep. I always thought you were a great student and a gifted writer. By the way, I love your precept. I agree, sometimes it's good to start over. A fresh start gives us the chance to reflect on the past, weigh the things we've done, and apply what we've learned from those things to the future. If we don't examine the past, we don't learn from it. As for the kids you didn't like, I do think I know who you're talking about. I'm sorry the year didn't turn out to be a happy one for you, but I hope you take a little time to ask yourself why. Things that happen to us, even the bad stuff, can often teach us a little bit about ourselves. Do you ever wonder why you've had such a hard time with these two students? Was it perhaps their friendship that bothered you? Would you be troubled by Augie's physical? Were you troubled? Were you troubled by Augie's physical appearance? You mentioned that you started having nightmares. Did you ever consider that maybe you were just a little afraid of Augie, Julian? Sometimes fear can make even the nicest kids say and do things they wouldn't ordinarily say or do. Perhaps you should explore these feelings further. In any case, I wish you the best of luck in your new school, Julian. You're a good kid, a natural leader. Just remember to use your leadership for good, huh? Don't forget, always choose kind. I don't know why, but I was so happy to get that email from Mr. Browne. I knew he would be understanding. I was so tired of everyone thinking I was this demon child, you know. It was obvious that Mr. Browne knew I wasn't. I reread his email like 10 times. I was smiling from ear to ear. So, Grandma asked me. She had just woken up and was having her breakfast, a croissant and cafe au lait delivered from downstairs. I haven't seen you this happy all summer long. What is it that you are reading, mon cher? Oh, I got an email from one of my teachers, I answered. Mr. Browne. From your old school? She asked. I thought they were all bad, those teachers. I thought it was good riddance to all of them. Grandmère had a thick French accent that was hard to understand sometimes. What? Good riddance, she repeated. Never mind, I thought the teachers were all stupid. The way she pronounced stupid was funny, like stupid. Not all, not Mr. Browne, I answered. So what did he write to make you so happy? Oh, nothing much, I said. It's just, I thought everyone hated me, but now I know Mr. Browne doesn't. Grandmère looked at me. Why would everyone hate you, Julian? She asked. You are such a good boy. I don't know, I answered. Read me the email, she said. No, Grandma, I started to say. Read, she commanded, pointing her finger at the screen. So I read Mr. Browne's letter aloud to her. Now, Grandmire knew a little bit about what had happened at Beecher Prep, but I don't think she knew the whole story. I mean, I think Mom and Dad told her the version of the story they told everyone else, with maybe a few more details. Grandmère knew there were a couple of kids who had made my life miserable, for instance, but she didn't know the specifics. She knew I'd gotten punched in the mouth, but she didn't know why. If anything, Grandmère probably assumed I had gotten bullied, and that's why I was leaving the school. So there were parts of Mr. Browne's email she really didn't understand. What does he mean? She said, squinting as she tried to read off my screen. Augie's physical appearance. Kessa, one of the kids that I didn't like. Augie. He had this awful facial deformity, I answered. It was really bad. He looked like a gargoyle. Julian, she said, that is not very nice. Sorry. And this boy, he was not sympathetic? She asked innocently. He was not nice to you? Was he a bully? I thought about it. No, he wasn't a bully. So why did you not like him? I shrugged. I don't know. He just got on my nerves. What do you mean you don't know? She answered quickly. Your parents told me you were leaving school because of some bullies. No. You got punched in the face? No. Well, yeah, I got punched, but not by the deformed kid, by his friend. Ah, so his friend was the bully. No, not exactly, I said. I can't say they were bullies, Grandmère. I mean, it wasn't like that. We just didn't get along, that's all. We hated each other. It's kind of hard to explain. You kind of had to be there. Here, let me show you what he looked like. Then maybe you'll understand a little better. I mean, not to sound mean, but it was really hard having to look at him every day. He gave me nightmares. I logged onto Facebook and found our class picture and zoomed in on Augie's face so she could see. She put her glasses on to look at it and spent a long time studying his face on the computer screen. I thought she would react the way Mom had reacted when she first saw the picture of Augie, but she didn't. She just nodded to herself, and then she closed the laptop. Pretty bad, huh? I said to her. She looked at me. Julian, she said, I think maybe your teacher is right. I think you were afraid of this boy. What? No way, I answered. I'm not afraid of Augie. I mean, I didn't like him. In fact, I kind of hated him, but not because I was afraid of him. Sometimes we hate the things we are afraid of, she said. I made a face like she was talking crazy. She took my hand. I know what it is like to be afraid, Julian, she said, holding her finger up to my face. There was a little boy that I was afraid of when I was a little girl. Let me guess, I answered, sounding bored. I bet he looked just like Augie. Grandmère shook her head. No, his face was fine. So why were you afraid of him? I asked. I tried to make my voice sound as disinterested as possible, but Grandmère ignored my bad attitude. She just sat back in her chair, her head slightly tilted, and I could tell by looking into her eyes that she had gone somewhere far away. And that is the end of chapter 18.